Wednesday, October 8th, 2025. We are at City Hall in the council chambers. On the first Wednesday of the quarter, we have a public forum. Those public forums typically last about 15 minutes. After the public forum, we'll move into our workshop meeting, and we have canceled the regular meeting because we did not have any action items. So the regular meeting is typically where the council will vote on items, but for some reason the tide had gone out. I'm sure it will come in again in a few weeks. So we'll start. Council, I'll turn to you for a motion to approve the agenda for the public forum.
Make that motion, Mayor.
I've got a motion by Councilman Henderson, a second by Councilman Coates. All in favor?
Aye.
And I'll just also make note that Councilman Belliston is on his way. He had a work meeting that he's finishing up, and he's on his way. As I was saying about a public forum, this is a chance for the mayor and the council, and frankly the staff as well, to listen to the public. We want to hear what you have to say. You probably won't hear the council responding much or engaging much, because our job during a public forum is to listen. I've found that most thoughtful comments can be given in about 2 to 3 minutes. I don't have one of those lanyards to pull for a drop floor, but if you get going over about 5 minutes, I might politely ask you to wrap it up. Also, if there are things that have been said, try to find something else to make your comment about. We'll make note just to kind of avoid anything that is repetitive. So for the public forum, we will start just in order that signed up, and I'll invite Kimberly Monson to come forward and address the mayor and council. Mrs. Monson.
Got some packets for you guys. Thank you. Okay, did everybody get one? Okay, good, that's great. That's serendipitous. Cool, awesome. Okay, well, I'm not here to complain about an odor. I'm here because my neighborhood is experiencing persistent hazardous air quality. When I purchased my home, I was unaware of the 2 dumps located nearby. My family and I moved here from out of state, relying fully on our real estate agent and the belief that the city would never allow residential development in an area that posed risk to public health. For nearly 3 years, we rarely noticed any smell from the landfill. That changed on June of this year when a major fire broke out at the ONP Purgatory landfill. Since that day, the entire community has been regularly exposed to strong odors, that of burning rubber and harsh chemical smells, often worse at night and lingering into the next day. Because of this, I purchased a high-quality outdoor air quality monitor. While I'm not an air quality expert, the graphs it produces are very clear. Our air quality in Sunrise Valley regularly spike into hazardous ranges, especially at night when the odors are strongest. I've provided you with a few printed graphs. These cannot be edited or altered by me. They are uploaded directly from a third-party online database. On page 1, you'll see 2 readings, figure A and figure B. These are from the air monitor. Both show large spikes in the hazardous range. Also on page 1 at the top is a graph showing what the typical suburban TVOC pattern should look like. It's normal to see an afternoon spike due to increased temperature, evaporation, and traffic. That's what a healthy suburban pattern looks like. On page 2, I've superimposed this typical pattern onto our actual readings. So page 1 and page 2 are very similar, but I've added that line of what it should look like onto those same graphs. Pages 3 through 5 are just additional snapshots on different days and various times, confirming that these spikes are not isolated incidents. These aren't just numbers on a chart. Members of our community are already feeling the effects. One neighbor, immunocompromised and pregnant, was hospitalized with respiratory distress after being outside on a day when the city dismissed the issue as just an odor. We believe this contamination stems from the June fire at the OMP Purgatory landfill, and it has persisted for months, threatening both our health and our quality of life. I also want to note something that many of our neighbors have observed. On weeks when the air quality checks have been scheduled and announced, the air has mysteriously cleared. The odor vanishes and the readings on my monitor drop. This tells us something important. This is not a random or uncontrollable problem. The landfill operators have demonstrated that they can reduce emissions when they know someone is watching. But the air should be safe every day, not just on inspection days. We are proud to be a part of this community, and we love to support you and the work that you do for our community. We're asking for your support in return to help keep our neighborhood safe and healthy. We would like to know what concrete steps you will take to address and resolve this hazard in our community.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Thanks. Do you have any questions
Appreciate
about
your
the
comments.
graphs? Do those make sense?
Questions regarding the graphs? No, but we really appreciate this. Thank you for, we've been monitoring the situation. We appreciate this update.
Thank you.
Tim Farmer. Mr. Farmer.
Thank you. Thank you, first of all, for this meeting. Let me just give you a little background just real quick, and because it has a bearing on what we're talking about. A few months ago, my wife's in the middle of retiring. There's a cool little story here, and it has bearing, but I've had a kidney transplant, and I'm 16 years into that, and my wife is my donor. And so I've been unemployed, or not unemployed, I've been retired for several years now, but my wife is just finishing up. We moved down here, and my goal is to provide her a home. So when I go, and it's going to be in the next 10 years, and an average transplant lasts about 12 years, and I'm into the 16th year. So anyway, so we moved down here, and we found a great home, great neighborhood. Love Washington City, love Sunrise Valley. The place is beautiful. But we move in, and just a very few days later, in fact, the very next day, we go outside in the morning, and the odor is just horrible. And we're trying to walk. I'm trying to keep my weight down, keep my blood pressure down. Anyway, the odor was just terrible, and we were just shocked, and we didn't know what it was. We knew the landfill was up there. I'd never heard of the Purgatory landfill. But then we started hearing stories about a fire and about this and that, and it just got to the point where I couldn't even go outside. And that's not why I'm here, is to have this type of problem. And then at nighttime, sometimes it's so bad, we like to now, especially it's cooler, open up the windows, get some fresh air in, and that's not happening. And it's just causing, my wife says it affects her eyes, and she's real sensitive to it. For me, I just about gag. It's just that almost burnt electrical chemical smell. I don't even know how to describe it. But for me, that's not why I'm here, and nobody warned me of this. Nobody said anything until after we're here, and all of a sudden we got this problem. And from what I'm understanding, it's relatively new. The longer-term residents of our neighborhood hadn't smelled it before the fire. And anyway, my goal is to keep the topic at the forefront with whoever can make the decisions to find out why this is happening and what to do about it. Because in my opinion, something really does need to be done about it. It's just intolerable sometimes. The latest incident was Sunday night. About 8 o'clock at night, we went out to enjoy our little backyard in Pergola, and the odor was so bad outside, we couldn't do it. We had to go back inside. And anyway, that's my story. And so it's for me, I'm trying to build a home for my wife to live in for the next 30 years. And this is a problem. And we hope that the powers that be keep this at the forefront until a solution is found. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Tim. We appreciate that.
All right. Thank you.
Good comments. Elijah Hillstrom. It's good to see you tonight, Elijah.
So I am not as prepared as Kim, but live in the same neighborhood, and it's the same issue that you guys have heard. But my big concern is as the dump runs, or the OMP landfill is where I believe the issue is. It started, like Kim said, about the time the fire was happening in Pine Valley. So, and we've spoke about possible debris being dumped in Purgatory landfill from that fire, which could be part of the smell. But it all did start about the same time as the fire. But the big concern for me is the river is downhill from that dump. And after any big rain, the park, and there's that collection area, just it fills up with all the water from that neighborhood, comes rushing down. And a lot of that water, of course, is from the dump. Now, as that overflows, it goes directly into the river. So not only is it a quality of life issue in terms of the smell, which it is, if you're, I work during the day, so in the evenings I'll be doing projects around home or working in the car, and you just start to smell it waft in the evenings, and it does affect, it affects quality of life, being able to exercise. But in my mind, the biggest issue at the forefront is the river's just downhill. The runoff goes right into it, if not all of it. A lot of it goes into the river. And my hope, and again, you guys we've worked with you so far, and it's been great, and we appreciate that very much. And we, as a community, I think are pretty well organized to work together with you. We're not placing blame anywhere. We just want to get to the root of the issue and fix it so that the quality of life for 30 years, as Mr. Farmer said, is there. No one wants to live in a house with an asterisk on it that you go to sell it, or you can go inside and you can use your house, but you can't go outside because there's a persistent dump smell. The other caveat is we bought our house in May of 2022, and I was there a couple years with literally zero issue. I was well aware we bought next to the dump. I was a little sheepish to buy there, if I'm being honest. I was like, man, who buys a house by the dump? Knowing full well it was there. But I talked to a lot of people and got good reviews, moved in, had no issue for 24 months. After that fire in July or late June or July, it's a consistent issue every night. So something has changed and something is causing that to happen. So appreciate your time. Thank you.
Real quick before I leave, Elijah, you and the neighbors that you brought along with you, we had a really productive conversation. And I think some of the things in my conversations with staff and council, we recognized that inflection point was either that fire at the landfill or debris from the Forsyth fire being dumped there.
Correct.
Has anything changed, or do you feel like we're getting any closer? I know we're working with Jaylyn up at the state with, she's with the Division of Waste Management. Are we getting anywhere?
So I think some sort of progress is being made somewhere. Kim alluded to it, where there are days where you don't smell it. And my concern was as the temperature dropped, the air becomes
heavier.
Yeah, it becomes thinner. You're able to smell it more so I lived in Coral Canyon prior to moving here, which is just over the hill. It's about, as the crow flies, it's about the same distance from the dump that I am now. And you would occasionally smell it in the winter in Coral Canyon. You could smell that dump smell. This is a different smell. And my concern was as the temperatures dropped, it would become more of an issue. And it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of maintained the same pattern. We've had days with no smell, but again, it's always there a few times a week at least. It rolls in at night, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool, appreciate it, thank you.
Mary Beth Powell, thank you for being here tonight. Come talk to us.
A lot of it's been said, so I'm going to talk about impact and
Pull that mic just a little closer so we can hear you. There you
but
go.
I don't want it to be too loud. I want to talk about the impact. There are a few things that I've noticed, and I just found about the meeting a couple days ago, so it's
We're
mostly
glad you're
notes.
here.
Me
This is
too.
a safe
I wish it
place,
was
okay?
packed full, but
We're listening. This council
Thank
is
you.
listening. We cared, so just
thank you.
give it to us straight.
We have a little bit of a financial impact because we can't open our windows at night. And that means we have bought air purifiers, and we have to run our AC when we shouldn't have to. We should be able to cool our homes. We've had doctor and vet visits. It's impacted our pets as well as ourselves. Sounds silly, but health is an obvious impact. I've had a persistent cough that I've never had before. It's been more than 2 months, and it's worse in the morning from overnight. That's with the windows closed, but if they're open, occasionally it won't stink when I go to bed, and I'll leave the window open. In the morning, twice I've had headaches that I've also never had before. I've woken up gasping for breath as if I'm drowning. That's my brain interpreting that smell. And then mental and emotional. This is something, I have a 12-year-old at home, and I think this is going to impact her. I think in 20 years, she's going to hear one of those commercials for a tort that says, "Did you live on Deep Creek Drive? If so, you may be entitled to compensation. Write this number." So I worry a lot. She's 12, she's changing. She's at that in between the age where a lot of things are changing for her, and I don't want this to impact her. We are heavily involved in our community. I love Washington City. I've lived in Utah most of my life and born here, and this is something that I would like to be here for the rest of my life, but I really worry. I wasn't told anything about a dump when I moved here, and when I moved here for a year, I had no problem. But since, I don't know the exact date, but it was around the middle of July that I started noticing impact. And there's one thing I want to say about the smell. It is not a decomposing or rotten smell. It is not a dump smell of natural sources where you throw garbage in your dumpster and it smells kind of weird. This is a manufactured smell that is burning or chemical and can be switched on or off, I believe, because there's some times when it doesn't happen for several days and nothing changes in the air. There's no rain, there's no difference in temperature, and suddenly it'll start up again. I like being here, and I'd like to continue to be here, so we appreciate the effort that you're putting into this, and let me know if you have any questions. I don't know how to explain a smell, so it's only at night that we notice it bleeds into the morning, and I think it has to do maybe with temperature also, as he was saying, that when it gets colder, it's probably going to get worse. Hot days, it's not as bad. Thank you.
Thank you. So that is everyone who signed up to speak at the public forum. And I felt like each individual shared some really important aspects of the situation down there in the Sunrise Valley area off Countryway. And I can tell you that there is a distinct smell from the Purgatory landfill than the county landfill. I can tell you that it does happen, it does occur stronger at parts of the day. I smell it sometimes in the morning, and I live a little ways away from there. So we are not, when you talk to your city officials, we hear you, we recognize there's an issue. I can tell you our staff is very aware. Our fire department has been there several times. I've written a letter to the Division of Waste Management. I'm involved in email threads. We continue to try to press for answers. And I think that was the conversation when we met with some of your residents with Elijah, was just primarily how do we find the source of this distinct smell so that we can help stop that or mitigate that to the extent we can. If there are any others here who would like to address a different angle in 2 to 3 minutes, something that hasn't been said yet, I'm happy to entertain 2 or 3 more comments before I close it. And I probably would do a hard stop at 4:30. So if there are 2 or 3 other individuals that would like to say, I recognize a lot of people have come and didn't get here in time to put their name on before. So I'll open that up now. Yes, come on forward, and if you'll just state your name for the record. And I will also the one thing on a public forum is for Washington City residents. So as long as you live in Washington, you're welcome to speak.
I'm one of them. My name is Allery Scanlon-Wattups, and I live in the Red Waters. There's a bunch of reds right there. I think it's the same lines. It might not be too much of a different angle that I've got. But I have a 12-year-old as well that's friends with Mary Beth's 12-year-old. And she was born at 26 weeks, so she has some issues with asthma. Early in her life, that was diagnosed as just chronic lung disease. And she's had some complications with respiratory issues. And so we don't have anything that can be directly tied to this smell that we're experiencing or the air quality. No medical evidence exactly yet, but in the last, like in this fall season, just side note, raising a beautiful girl was totally unexpected for me. She's in love with football. So she's so into sports, so into many things. That's her passion, but she's very affected by the air quality. So that's multiple times during the day when we would usually try to go experience whatever she'd like to outside. Throw the football is the thing right now. She can't really do that without just having a little bit of an issue, and we'll have to pause. We have an inhaler that we were prescribed for her this summer, so it was around July, because we'd noticed that issue just become a lot more intense, and specifically when we're at home and in our neighborhood or park. So I don't have yet specific evidence to say these things are really affecting her asthma, but it seems like the thing she's used to doing and loves to do, she's not able to do since this, specifically this summer and fall. So that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. A couple more here. We'll go here in the back. And then if you'll just, Washington City resident, I presume, and then if you'll just state your name.
Yeah, so my name is Kyle Pfeiffer. I live in Red Mesa. We moved here from Florida for health reasons because of toxic mold in Florida. And ever since we moved into Red Mesa, we've noticed our health has gone back up to really bad. And we did some searching ourselves, drove around late at night when we first smelled the smell, and we thought it was forest fires because it kind of correlated. But then when we talked to our landlord, he's like, nope, there's a petition going around. And so we started driving around at night. We went up to the dump thinking it was the dump. We could not smell it at the dump at all. There was no smell there. So we drove around to the business complex by Red Mesa, went over to the mine area, and it was really strong in that area. So we're like, all right, this is not a part of the dump. So our health has all suffered. We're actually talked to our landlord, and he's letting us move out early, and we're gonna have to leave Washington County because of our health. So we're out of here, which is sad because we want to be here. So that's where we're at.
Thank you for sharing that. We've got a couple more minutes. Anybody else that hasn't spoken already? Washington City resident,
Yes,
and then just state your name.
Rayma Pfeiffer, Red Mesa, wife of Kyle. Yeah, we were here to heal because of mold in Florida, and we were doing Healing Beautifully. And then we moved into the Red Mesa area. We already lived in Hurricane for a year. We moved in February. We were doing great. I had started gardening. Gardening was going well. And then we noticed a decline. And now, right now, I have a really bad headache. My hair is falling out daily. I can't even, it's distressing when you're a woman with thick hair and it's just falling out. We have menstrual issues. My son has brain fog, and we're home homeschooling, so we're in our house a lot. And my garden was starting to reduce, and then about midsummer, it would things would start to grow, and then they would just stop. And we have shade and doing all the things, so it was just bizarre for that to happen, to see And then I started questioning, should we even be eating this? And we just thought, again, it was the fires, because it kind of correlated when
Right,
the fires.
I remember
We're like,
that.
oh, it's the fires. And we went to California for a week, felt better, came back, and we smelled it again. We thought, did the fire start back up? We had no idea until our landlord sent around a message saying, hey, the whole neighborhood's talking about this. They're doing a petition. People are getting sick, and we've had sleeping issues and all this stuff. And we just kept thinking, is it mold again? What's going on? Because we had such a marked change of good health. So we're super in tune to knowing when it goes down. And so my son, his basketball has been affected. He's just no longer playing well. Sleeping issues, menstrual cycles that are abnormal, things like that, where you're just like, okay, something's this. And then one night we were with our dog, and we wanted to go down the hill to the park that's in our neighborhood, right? And so we got to the end of the street, and sure enough, the smell kicked in. And this night, our eyes were actually burning. We couldn't believe it. We're like, oh my gosh, our eyes are burning. We're like, this can't be healthy. Like, this can't be a normal, just environmental occurrence. And so that's when we started to just kind of close up. And then I stopped going outside and watering the garden at night. We just don't even go outside because we're so afraid. So that's not a place that you want to be we love it here so much, and we're going to have to leave. So that's it.
Thank you for sharing
Yeah,
that.
thank you for.
We'll do one more comment. I recognize you, but
Hey, my
State your
name's
name. Yeah, there you
Christian
go.
Jacobs. I'm Washington County
oh,
resident.
we know you, Christian. Welcome.
I wasn't going to say anything. I was just sitting in the back. I've spoken with members of the council, and we've talked about this. You're aware of it. We know that this is a problem and an issue. And I'm here in my wife's absence. She wanted me to come and be a part of the thing. But we moved here from California in 2020. I grew up in California. I grew up in the San Fernando Valley, which is this, they nicknamed the Smog Bowl, like growing up as a kid. And this is just like a little, it's not helping anything. We're not solving the problem right now, but I do know that like people in Washington, people in Utah, people take pride in the natural things about Utah, natural resources, the environment, being in nature. We left California for multiple reasons, but I mean, growing up as a kid, we didn't have snow days, we had smog days. And when the air was so bad, they closed the school because, you come home from school and your lungs would be burning. So I wasn't going to say anything at all, but I can totally relate to some of these parents that, it sounds extreme, that, oh, my kids come in and their lungs are hurting, but it's a real thing. And it did really happen to me as a kid. And some of that toxic smell in the air is familiar. Like it's something that's familiar, and I've smelled it. And again, just as a new resident to Washington and someone who, really, I feel like I have a lot of, interest here, and I want to help. I don't want to turn this into California at all. And I think that's, in moving here, that was one of the biggest, it was one of the biggest things that was said to me when people would say, where are you from? And I'd say California, and people would be like, don't change, don't change us. And that's exactly why we didn't want, we didn't want to be in California anymore. We want to be somewhere like Utah that's natural, and it's not a toxic environment in more than one way, right? And so I know this isn't necessarily helping, but something to think about is that, people have a right to run a business. They have a right to do, this is America, this is capitalism, it's free enterprise. But at the same time, you don't want to turn this area into a toxic area. I mean, you don't want this to be Los Angeles. There's a reason people are here. There's a reason the quality of life is so good here. And I know you're not ignoring it. I know it's been I've talked to Councilman Ivey about it, and, Brother Segmiller here, we're friends. And so it's just one of those things, just think about living close to a landfill. You know the job was dangerous when you took it. So that is one thing for sure. But if it's drifting into your environment, if it's getting into the river, if there's things that we don't see that are getting into the lungs of our children, it's just something to think about. Fortunately in St. George, you don't have to close the school for snow days, but you don't want to ever have to close it for smog days either. And that's all I got to say.
One quick question for you before we wrap the public forum up. I've smelled it less early in the mornings over the last few weeks, but I don't want to presume. I mean, what have you noticed? Is it dissipating at all, or is it still as bad as it ever has?
A wind blows a certain way, it goes along the ridge there, that like the ridge on the north side of the Red Mesa, Red Waters. it slides along that ridge and it goes right down that corridor where the river cuts through. You know, appropriately, it finds its way over to hellhole, right? And that's where it's going. And depending on, again, on the wind, but it feels like it's dissipated a little bit, but again, depending on the wind, it's just as strong. Early mornings, middle of the night, if you get up to, you know, take out the garbage in the middle of the night, you'll smell it. And sometimes we don't smell it at all, but again, the closer we get to the kind of the ridge, it blows right along the ridge. Like that's what we noticed. But when I first came back this summer, it was every night. But now it's maybe, you know, a couple times a week, but it's still there. It hasn't gone away. So again, that's any other
I think
questions?
that's accurate.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. We will continue to work with the state agency. Our goal is to help find the source and mitigate that. So that's really what we can do, is continue to apply political pressure and the expertise that we can offer through Jaylyn and her staff to try to find that source, respecting the private business, but helping them, you know, resolve it. Council, any final comments before we close public forum?
Mayor, I just feel for these folks that are here tonight. It's a great part of our community, and I just really appreciate the way they presented the problem in a way that gives us a way forward to understand it better and trying to keep emotion out, because we understand that this is a real problem. And I would like to, I know the council is great, mayor's great, city staff's great at knowing how to solve problems, and I think we ought to put this at the top of our list to help and make sure that we do what we can do, whatever that is. First of all, understand what those things are, and then get them implemented, because I can imagine as they were talking, some of those things that were just heart-wrenching.
Yeah, I see your notes.
The person that mentioned that they're afraid that this will affect the way their child is growing up, that unsafe environment, or that there's changes their daily routine. That's just, to me, was very impactful, and I appreciate them being here tonight. Mayor, I appreciate your conversation with them, but I think this needs to be top of our list.
Thank you, Councilwoman Casperson.
I feel like what you shared was just how I was feeling too. I appreciate everyone coming tonight, and I just want you all to know that I do care about your family's health, and I just agree with Councilman Ivy that we should try to do everything we can to try to mitigate and help with this situation.
Any additional comments?
Appreciate your comments. I especially appreciate the professionalism. I mean, everybody that came up was professional and matter of fact, and appreciate this information. That's a great
Thanks, Kim.
chart, but yeah, that's not acceptable to have that kind of thing going on in your neighborhood. So we'll do what we can. So and try to resolve it the best we can with what we have. So thank you.
Okay, you're welcome to stay for the next meeting, but Council, I'll turn to you now for a motion to close the public forum.
So made, Mayor.
We have a motion by Councilman Ivy,
Second.
second by Councilwoman Casperson. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The public forum is now closed. We'll move into our workshop meeting, and I'll turn.
So moved, Mayor.
I have a motion by Councilman Coates,
Second.
second by Councilwoman Casperson. All in favor?
Aye.
The workshop agenda is approved unanimously. Our first item of business is a water supply update. I'll welcome the Washington County Water Conservancy District Manager, Zach Renstrom, to present to the council. Mr. Renstrom.
Thank you. It's good to be here. I emailed over my presentation, so
It
hopefully
was a
they can pull it up.
snap. We might have went a little fast, but it's
Okay.
coming. There we go.
Okay, perfect. Well, it's always so nice to be here. I see old friends, and it's so nice to be here, and so it's good to see you. We gave it, in the water world, we have a weird year, and our new year actually starts on October 1st. That's our water year. And so this is a good time to look back at the last year and see what's going on there. And so that's what I'll present here tonight. How do I adjust? Is it just?
Maybe just say next slide if David's driving.
Okay. So this graph, let me explain it. So this kind of shows what's going on historically. And so the brownish line, that is normal for downtown St. George. And so we actually have records that go all the way back to 1890. So when we take all those records and we put them together and we say, what's just average, what's normal? So generally we get about 9 inches of rain in downtown St. George. The highest ever recorded actually wasn't that long ago. It's just a couple of years ago. And that's that blue line. The green line is the current year, and the lowest ever recorded was in 1955, which is the red line. And so if you look at that, as we get towards the end of it, you can see if it wasn't for a little tiny rainstorm that came through and just kicked us over just a little bit, last year would have been the driest year ever recorded in St. George, Utah. And like I said, they go past to 1890. And so we barely got out of it, but fortunately did. Do you want to advance it to the next one? Is that? Okay. All right. Well, we got there, so it doesn't matter. So on the Virgin River, that black dotted line, that's the average. And so what we see there is, it's, like I said, it starts kind of low into March. That's where we get snow. But when that snow melts, it starts to go up. And so that big peak is basically snow melt. And so what's happening, it starts to warm up, that snow starts to melt, and then we get that peak coming off there.
And that black hashed line is the average.
That's the average. Typical. That's what we'd like to see. So what we did is we went back and said, okay, in the last 20 years, what is our driest years recorded? And so we put up those in there, and you can kind of see that those were multiple years where we literally had no snow melt. There was the little snow that we got, the soils basically just sucked that up. This last year, and it's not showing, but last year was actually that purple line, and so the blue line-ish. So essentially we had no runoff, and then as we get into July, you'll start to see those big spikes, and what those are actually big monsoonal rains that come in and just dump rain. We really only had one monsoonal rain event this last year, and so we had essentially no runoff and just one little monsoonal that wasn't even enough to really get above 200 cubic feet per second. So how did you advance that? Oh, it's the green one. Okay. So one of the things that has us concerned right now is soil moisture content. And so what happens is the soil has to have so much water in it before we actually see the runoff that comes into our reservoirs. And so this is basically from NASA, and they monitor the levels of our soil content. And you can kind of see that it's showing a lot of red, which means it's really, really dry. And so if we do get snow this coming year, we know that the soils are going to suck up a lot of that, and so we're not going to get a lot of runoff, which means if we get just an average percent snowpack, we will not get an average runoff this year. So we're really looking to go above this year to get the flows that we need. Sorry, I'm not sure how this. Next slide. So I have positive things to talk about. It's not all negative. So so you have to understand, as engineers, we love graphs and numbers. I know it doesn't make us very fun at parties, but we do like this stuff. So what this graph is showing, it shows several things. So if you see the gray line up there, you see it starts with the number of 80,500. And so that is the number of equivalent residential connections that we have with the system. And so in the last 5 years, we've added almost 12,600 units. Now, they're not all homes. Like if you have a commercial project that has a bigger meter, that's actually several homes combined. But basically, we have 92,600 equivalent residential connections that we're providing water to. Then we look at the production of water. And this is all in the cities combined and the districts. And so this is all of us together. And so as you can see, even though that line has gone up, the production of water that we've had to supply has not gone up very much. It has gone up a little bit, but overall, all this conservation that we're talking about, the new homes that are being built that are very water efficient, we have statistics and data that shows that we're doing a great job here, and we're able to grow without having the massive amount of water that we need. So next slide. And so this kind of shows that just in the last 5 years, we've actually seen a decline in the average residential connection go down by 10%, which is one of the best conservation measures that that's been ever recorded, actually, to see that type of improvement. So we'll go to the next slide. This is the reason why this year I've been able to tell everybody that even though we had one of the driest years ever recorded, that we didn't have to do any water restrictions. We had safe, reliable drinking waters. So Sand Hollow and Quail Reservoir are our two most important reservoirs for drinking. That's where over 60% to 70% of our drinking water comes from in those two reservoirs. And so if you look back, let's say to 2023, the gray line is on June 1st. And so a couple of years ago, even last year, on June 1st, both those reservoirs were at 100% full. And then as they go through the year, they start to decline because we pull water out of that. And so you see the blue line is August 1st and then October. And so this last year, we didn't start at 100%, but it was still a very healthy level. We dropped a little bit, and of course on October 1st, at the new year, we dropped again. But if you go back to 2022, our reservoirs actually have more water in them now than they did in 2022. And so coming into this next year, even though it may be another dry year, we have really good water storage to carry us over another year. And so this shows how important it is to have these big water projects that we're building in these big reservoirs. A lot of people, I don't know, a lot of people left, but if you basically moved here in the last 30 years, it's because of these two water projects. And that's why one of the things that the district is very aggressive about right now is building a lot of dams. And so in fact, we're handing out, we'll bring some by little buttons that say, I love dams, or I got a damn good job. So we'll pass those buttons out when we get them. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. Unfortunately, our irrigators got hit really hard this year. And so Gunlock is 100% irrigation water. And that's mostly goes to farms and a little bit of residential or outside irrigation. So right now, Gunlock has started out very low. It only was about 60%, and it dropped fairly quickly. In fact, to the point that the boat ramp had to be closed because it's so low out there. And we're to a level that we're actually starting to get worried about just the fish starting to dry off because there's not a lot of water there. Hopefully we'll get a good year going, but Gunlock we're very nervous about because not only is it very low, but we had that massive fire. And so if we do get some runoff, we're worried about all that ash coming in, and that ash has a lot of negative effects on the water quality. So that's probably the area that I'm most concerned about for this next year. So go to the next slide. Just a couple of things. These little rainstorms that we've had, or that's actually coming up, are actually really important because it's putting moisture in the soil. So when that snowpack comes, usually in about the end of November, December, we'll be able to utilize that a little bit more. The other thing that we like to emphasize right now is the easiest time to do water conservation. So what happens is people set their landscape clocks or irrigation systems for July. And then as it gets cool, they don't usually turn those down back fast enough. And so they just keep over-watering right now. And so a big thing is if we can get people just to kind of dial those back a little bit, that's literally just allowing us to keep that water for next year and carrying it over. And so that's very important. Next slide. I think that's it. And that's pretty much it. If anybody has questions or comments.
Questions for Zach?
I'm sending myself an email right now to turn my sprinkler down.
So good. That's
Thank you
perfect.
for the reminder.
I already did. So predicting for this water year. Have you seen predictions?
Below normal.
Below normal.
But just 90%. First of all, I don't trust them.
It's like the Farmer's Almanac. Is
Yes. And so NOAA came out and they said it should be slightly drier this coming year.
Drier
but
than last year or drier than normal?
just normal, yeah. So they just said slightly below normal, but yeah. I guess they disappointed me so many times in the past, I don't go for it, so.
So Zach, I know you're doing the regional line and stuff like that, but how can the district help Washington City with some like low-hanging fruit on secondary water or stuff like that?
There's a lot of things just actually come in. So there's a couple things we can do. So with the excess water surcharge, in the implementation of that, we actually had some funds that were paid by the city kind of before other cities. And so the district says those funds are available for the city to utilize. We give them back to the city.
And we talked about that a couple weeks ago, I think.
Yeah, and so it's just a matter of just coming in and just talking to us about some things. Maybe it's not necessarily money from the district, but there are some other grants that we work with those agencies quite a bit that we could probably help you get some grants funds too.
I had a conversation before the meeting, so I had a lot of my questions answered, but maybe for those who are listening online, could you maybe talk about some of the updates of some of the projects that you're working on that would be, of interest to those who are listening perhaps?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So the one that most people ask me about right now, because it's so obvious, is Chief Toker Reservoir. And we are calling it Chief Toker Reservoir. I got it approved by the local band.
Hey, cue up those videos while Zach talks. We were out there together yesterday.
Oh, you got them?
I just took a few videos
Okay.
while we were out there,
Yeah.
and you can watch while Zach's talking about it.
So we're very excited about it. The contractor's doing a great job on it. We're moving a lot of soil. So this will be a very important infrastructure project. And even though it's being built over in Tokerville, what it's essentially doing is it's going to free up some capacity in the system that can then free that water to come over here to Washington. You can see the main cut right there. The foundation is that concrete, but now we're building the earth part of that. And so you can see how we dig down into the bedrock and they start filling in. And you saw that darker clay material, that special clay, that's actually what holds the dam together. And so we're excited about that. That should be completed next fall. Then right after we're done with this one.
So Zach, can I ask?
Yeah.
This is, the water's on the right side or the left
The
side?
left.
The left?
Yep.
So it's going back toward the freeway?
Yes.
Will you be able to see it from the freeway? Because I've seen that scar from the freeway up on that ridge.
Yes, you'll be able to see it. If we see another picture.
Just when it was zoomed out, I just recognized that scar from the freeway, but I
Yep.
never knew where the lake was landing.
Yeah, it'll go up towards the new truck stop, essentially.
Right there.
Shoot.
Anderson Junction area, right?
You really can't tell from this one, but basically where you see that cut is, that's about the height of the dam.
Go back to that first one, David.
So will the water be all the way that high or down 10 feet or so?
It'll be
Like
down
Sand
a little
Hollow?
bit, yeah. Okay, right there, oh, that's a good one. You see where that line is,
Uh-huh.
So basically, we remove all the vegetation up to the high water mark of the dam. And so that cut where you really see the redness, that will be the high water level.
Okay.
So when the dam's at 100%, it'll be at that level. Why we scrape all that material off is, first of all, the dams just act better when you get rid of all the vegetation and all the organics. But then we're also putting a liner, and so they have to clear off all that material to put that liner on there. And that's another reason why it's really easy to see right that's at. So as you're going up I-15, you'll be able to look over and see it. There'll be a great place to recreate on it. So paddle boards, no motorboats, but like paddle boards or canoes or anything like that. We're working with the city of Tokerville to do what they want to do over there.
What's the size comparison to Sand Hollow? Is it?
Oh, it's a lot smaller. So Sand Hollow is huge. Like that's 50,000 acre feet of water. This will be like 4,000.
Okay.
So a tenth of the size.
And that's all fed by?
So there's three sources of water. So we build a line basically that goes all the way to Ash Creek Reservoir, which is at the top of the Black Ridge. There's an existing reservoir there that just never has worked well. They kind of built it because they built I-15. So we ran a pipeline up there. Then we have some spurs that basically go up towards Pine Valley Mountain and collect some spring water there. And then we'll be pumping reuse water into this also. And so we'll be able to feed it in a lot of different ways.
And then the purpose for this is irrigation, basically?
Yeah, so right now we have Tokerville Springs, and so that's a very high quality spring. I mean, all you have to do is add a little chlorine to it and you can drink it. In fact, that's what Tokerville and Laverton pretty much drink, and a little bit of Hurricane. But the majority of that spring has actually been going to irrigation, all the farms there. And so we're kind of doing a swap where that spring now will become 100% culinary drinking. And for all the farmers out there, they'll be getting water out of this reservoir in the future now. And then eventually, as it really grows out, this reservoir, it'll just leaves a couple of options there for like city parks and stuff like that.
Where do you pull that clay material from?
So that is specialized clay from, actually, it's Bench Lake area in Hurricane. So I know it's, some clays around here swell. And what's interesting about this clay is it doesn't really swell.
Okay.
And so that's what all those big trucks are basically bringing in all the way over there. Then the other, you can kind of see some gray material to the side and some other material that's a little bit browner to the left. And so these dams are built in a special way that each soil has a very particular function. So that center is really, that's what holds the water in. But when it's all done, it'll look like San Ho with just basically rock on the outside.
Nice.
Lava rock. So once this is done, the goal is to go up to Kolob Reservoir and raise Kolob Reservoir by 8 feet. And we're right now doing the design on that. And then after that, we have Cove Reservoir, we have Graveyard Reservoir, Dry Wash we put on hold, but eventually we'll hopefully get Warner Valley in there. And so that'll be a great one. And that'll be a big one where you probably most likely will be able to have like ski boats on and other things like that.
So Zach, really the benefit of Chief Toker Reservoir is secondary type water, but it creates a greater yield of our culinary water.
Oh, yeah.
Which ultimately is the goal, right?
Yes. Yeah. So this will be a good one. And so we have an aggressive plan to build lots of infrastructure. So I talked about the dams, but we have our reuse system. We're working with a lot of, right now, basically the Bureau of Reclamation, get it through the environmental process, but we'll get that project going too. So we'll keep up.
Would you just share a little more detail about the Warner Valley, if you're prepared to just talk about this a little bit? I'd appreciate it.
Sure. So we're excited because the district will own that here in probably, well, once the government reopens, we'll own it within about 30 days. And so it's gone through the entire environmental review process. We didn't get any protests in the end. And so the Bureau of Land Management basically said, yes, this is good. We're going to do the land swap. And then they got shut down. And so here, hopefully in about 30 days, the district will own it. So once we own it, it gives us the option then to go in and start doing the core testing and getting all the soil and stuff like that we need to, so we can actually start to do the true design on the dam. And then we just, at that point, we'll build it when we need it. We will, with the reuse, we are putting up water lines that will go right next to the dam. That would be one of the ways we would fill that dam up also.
Any projections on timeline? I know it depends on a lot of factors, but just generally?
That's kind of tough to say.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. But once we own it, that is the biggest. So when we went to the BLM and started working with the BLM, they told us it would take us 2 years, and that was 10 years ago. So it kind of tells you the timeline.
So Zach, just before we let you get back to, well, get on with your day, part of the regional reuse system is just a lot of those underground pipes, being able to move water between the reservoirs and allocate the water where we need it. There's going to be some of those pipes that are going to come through St. George and into Washington and out towards Warner and up towards Sound Hollow and Quail. And we've talked about this before, but just so that Blake hears it as well, as and we've seen some of those preliminary ideas where those pipes are going to go. If you can just coordinate with me or with my staff so that we can just assess kind of our roads and make sure that we're ready to, when we have those opened up, that's always a good time to, if there are improvements that need to be made and other things. So let's just keep that in mind and while everybody's here to coordinate together on that.
Yeah, be happy to.
Anything else for Zach?
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate
you.
If any of you ever have questions, if you want to go see any of our infrastructure as policymakers, I feel very strongly that you need to have the best information available. So just let me know. I'd be happy to give you a tour. We'll put a hard hat on you and take you out there if you want to go see the dam. or anything that you want to see, let me know.
I wish I'd have got some pictures of the liner. That's actually really a
Yeah,
big part of it too, but
yeah.
well done. Thank you,
Okay,
Zach.
thank you very much.
All right, next item of business on this workshop agenda is a commercial general plan review. And I believe that's Community Development Director Eldon Gibb.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. We all know that our city is growing rapidly. And Mayor, if you're okay with it, I'd like to present a few slides.
Please do.
And then dig into a few examples here.
And then Eldon, as you after you present that, just would be happy for the council to give some input and directive on that.
You betcha. So to remind ourselves what the general plan is and the role that it plays, I like to refer to this as a blueprint to guide the growth within the community. A more technical definition could be a long-range strategic document that guides growth, development, and provides a vision. It's important to stay ahead of the growth and be forward-thinking, and it's great that we're here today having this discussion. As shown on this first slide here, Washington City's boundary includes 36.11 square miles, and there are currently 2 islands in our city that are in the county. And recently I found out that the property owners of this land have begun the process to annex into our city. The Adams property here. We'll zoom in and the second slide is the boundary of our city along with the annexation plan, and you can see those dots a little bit better there. 128.9 acres and 23 acres, which should be in the city here soon. This also illustrates that we have the ability to double our footprint by adding 44 square miles, which would create a total of 81 square miles in the city of Washington if all of this area were to be annexed. This last map is the current general plan, and the items labeled as HCOM, NCOM, CCOM, RCOM, and PUDC are the areas that are general planned as commercial. Most of those are the red areas as seen on the map. Staff has had 2 recent inquiries regarding the appetite for commercial projects south of the river. The first project is located at approximately 500 West and Merrill Road. The project directly to the west of this is St. George and has announced uses such as a megaplex, Nordstrom Rack, and Lovesac. So all of that will be commercial area. The property with the star there is right on the border, and we've had some inquiries there from the developer, the landowner there, on our appetite to bring commercial and kind of feed off those St. George uses to carry into our city. So this is one area we'd like to discuss. The second project, before we leave this one here, we can pull up the general plan. You can see that property is currently low density residential. The second area here is George Washington Boulevard on the very east end, adjacent to SR7, just north of the recently approved Star Nursery. This area is general planned as low density, neighborhood commercial, and open space. Staff would also like to discuss the appetite in changing the general plan in this area to a little bit higher commercial use such as CCOM or even regional commercial, and the possibility in allowing higher densities in this area, just knowing the proximity of the major corridors, George Washington Boulevard and SR7 is a county roadway tying into Hurricane St. George. I'm happy to facilitate discussion, dig in as council would like. That's everything I've prepared for today.
Council, really this, obviously Councilman Ivy had asked for some updates on this, but really just an opportunity for you to give, feedback and direction to the staff on this and, just kind of explore some of those areas. So really happy to let this be an open conversation with council and staff as you see fit.
Question, Mayor.
Go ahead.
What's the topography like northeast of the Star Nursery there? Is that, I'm wanting to say there's kind of a lot of slopes and.
There is, yes.
Yeah.
There's quite a bit of usable land into the hillside. But it does taper up into, I can turn on the hillside percentage there.
Any of those properties that are along 3650 are already general plan neighborhood commercial, right? So this is north of those.
Pull up the hillside here, you can see the percentages. Zoom in a little bit.
So up in that area where your star is, be up.
The star I have is right in this area here.
Okay.
These, correct, just north of George Washington Boulevard. If we pull up the general plan, see this not yet determined neighborhood commercial, which is a C1 AP use, but heavier use. Community commercial would allow the C2 uses due to the proximity there of SR7, maybe a little more big box. This would be a good fit. And then higher density as well, bring in the units to support those uses.
Are you looking at this for like a mid update, or are we going into a new general plan document?
This was just to get the fluids flowing, kind of get a temperature gauge of where council's at.
I don't personally, going commercial, I think they're gonna want to bring in what they want to bring in time, but I think it's in the general plan of commercial.
Yeah, as a planner, we use the general plan to guide and influence our decisions to bring to you to make those calls. So if we were just to leave with a direction in these areas and set it up for success.
I ask if it's part of a new general plan, is because, typically you're gonna have open houses where you have people that are in the area and bringing comments and all of that, where if we do, put this on the agenda as like a mid-cycle update, then you're not gonna get as much of that, so.
It would certainly be more of a mid-cycle update. We're not looking to redo the entire general plan, but every landowner within a certain area would receive as if we intend to redo the general plan. So I think instead of the entire general plan for the entire city, what the request was is let's look at some areas that maybe would make a little more sense for commercial. Other areas, it's maybe not as important that we look at that until something comes.
And that's exactly what my intent was just, I realized since 2017, we built a lot, we've changed a lot, roads have come in. And as things are continuing to develop, I think it'd be very important to identify those commercial areas. Such a great job in the last several years in trying to get good commercial here, because we all know the impact of that, right? We don't want to raise taxes, you got to increase your sales tax and your property tax revenue to fund public safety and other things in the city. But my goal was just to basically just start the conversation to identify those areas. Like I'm intrigued by the area down east of the airport. How does that look? What is that? Because there's been some movement out there without saying too much about other things, and that build out, we just want to take advantage of those things. I think that our residents, we're getting big enough in our city that I think the expectation would be that our citizens should be able to get goods and services close to their homes. That's convenient and help support the community that they live in. But that was my goal. I don't know that I ever intended on really wanting a full general plan update, but I think it's just kind of just sticking our toe in the pond and see what comes of it. I know I read something when I was at the league last week that intrigued me, and it was an article on how much percentage a city should have in commercial as compared to residential. You know, and of course, there's a lot of factors in that, a lot of things that depend on that, the size, the city, the function, the goal, the tourism, and everything plays into it. But the goal that I would have is for Washington City to be self-sufficient, in that we be self-sufficient without having to raise taxes. And I think that that's my goal, is that it's really twofold. It's convenience of our citizens and be able to provide the tax base that we need to be self-sufficient. But the numbers that were thrown around is some cities went as high as said, well, we like, 60% residential and 40 commercial would be a great base. That would really define our city and make it self-sufficient. Others would say 70-30, while others 80-20. And I think that we're more, I don't know what we are. I'd have to consult Rusty on that, but I don't know that we're in any of those blocks yet. But I just think that by looking and planning now, as those build out, we'll be better prepared to serve them when they come. And like Councilman said, when people come in and want to bring their product in, it may give us a leg up just to say, yeah, we've already considered this. This is a good area or a good candidate for commercial growth or even industrial. I think the balance in those numbers that I gave you is there's a little bit of industrial in there too, in the commercial side. So it's just, like we do a great job. Eldon and his staff does a great job in building. We want to grow smart. We want to grow in a way that can keep us heading in the right direction. We love our residents, but we realize we have to have some commercial and to continue to grow the way we want to. I think it's just important to carry on with those conversations, make the decisions, and implement what we need to make sure that we take advantage of all the commercial properties that we have available in our city.
So, Eldon, how often do they recommend that you update the general plan?
Great question. It comes down to growth and how quickly your city changes. The standard typical answers 5 to 8 years.
Yeah, typically 5,
7, 8 years.
5, 8, whatever. I think it was 10 years when we did the one in 2017. So we're already at 8 years. Do we have a plan for updating the whole general plan within the next couple of years?
That's really up to the city council. When we discussed it in your retreat, the council decided not to budget for that this year, but to focus a little more on the downtown. But we're happy to take your lead on that. Usually we do an entire general plan update. And honestly, a lot of our areas are getting filled in, so it's maybe not as large a project as it could be, but you usually hire a consultant who goes out, like I said, and does open houses and meets with residents and all those kind of things. So it's really up to you. Let us know when you're ready to do that. But it does take quite a bit of time, and there's a cost involved as well. So.
Eldon, Mayor, can I? Eldon, I think both of these parcels make sense to think about some commercial. I would recommend maybe on this Merrill property that there be some feathering, because I know there's some, residential neighborhoods that abut right up to that parcel that are, would probably appreciate some feathering of some kind. So.
I just want, for the record, to let everyone know that I haven't been to a party with Bob Hermanson, but I have with Jason Smith, and for an engineer, he was pretty fun. And I know Zach was kind of giving his fellow engineers a hard time, and I bet Bob's pretty good too. Just. Council, anything else on this? Eldon, do you feel like you've got what you need on that and got some directive?
Yeah, I heard to.
Do you want to clarify anything? Yeah, tell us what you heard, and council will make sure you heard what you said.
We're open to bring commercial property in and keep taxes low as long as we're feathering those in. Gradual changes into the higher uses.
I'd say on the the one up by where Star Nursery is, I wouldn't be opposed to commercial or higher density. You know, either one of those would be great. Commercial would be nice to pay the bills. Yeah, like the one down on Merrill Road, same thing, but an emphasis, I would say, on feathering down there. Just keep, you know, look at those neighborhoods down there. That is going to require some feathering.
The only challenge with Merrill is you've essentially got the homes right across the street. So to feather, you're pushing stuff off the thoroughfare. And that, it makes that really difficult, right? It really depends on what would go on there. I think it makes sense because you've got, you know, everything off to the west, and some of the stuff that I know has been, you know, poking around that area would be good neighborhood commercial. But when you bring it in and say, hey, we're looking at doing a commercial across the street, you know what's going to happen. Oh, we don't want any. Well, what about this? Well, yeah, we kind of like that. Okay. So, I mean, those folks, but go there would all be good neighborhoods.
So I'm against the Merrill Road one, mostly because I think it'd be hypocritical of me because I fought so hard against the St. George right there, and then we're gonna put commercial right next to it. So I'm against that one. The other one on Parkway makes sense, but this one, I literally had meeting after meeting with them trying not to do their commercial that way, and then we're gonna do it. I think it's hypocritical of me to do that, so I'm against that one. Putting it down on the corner of Merrill and 20th East might make more sense to me, but.
Eldon, what my goal was, and I appreciate the mayor putting on the agenda and council, your thoughts on this, but it was really to identify, box us or paint us into a corner to make sure that we can see these coming and realize that every piece of property in Washington City should be considered as commercial if it makes sense for our residents and for our commercial base. And so it's just really a holistic approach saying, what have we got? What can we put into the commercial bucket and see what we can pull out and make work. So it's just that overall look is what I was really wanting. Just a great big comprehensive look of the whole city and maybe even one little glance into maybe our future annexation going to the east, you know, just seeing how that looks and make sure that we blend nicely as we leave Washington down there in that area going to the east and what that looks like. But that was what I was looking for, Mayor. And I appreciate everyone's effort on this. Thank you.
Thank you, council members. Good discussion. Appreciate your preparation, Eldon. This is really helpful. I appreciate the way I actually even really like the context with our footprint and our size and really it just makes me lose more sleep when I think about Warner down there. But on that note, before we go on to the next item, Bob, can I invite you up, Mr. Hermanson? I don't remember which council member brought up down towards the airport. You know that area as well as anybody be involved with the ARA project with Freeport. What are you seeing down there? Are there things that Washington should look at we should look at on our general plan to keep up? I know most of that stuff is done by Freeport, but just your thoughts on that.
You know, on your guys' side of the fence, if you will, honestly, it's pretty much in alignment. You cross over to St. George and they've got some challenging zoning and things like that we're dealing with on some other projects. I think you are okay as well there, but we do intend, you know, probably the front end of next year to move across the freeway, not with ARA, but with the other project, the Balboa project.
Where the on and off ramps are going to be built.
Yep.
So we do have some commercial areas there. Can you pull that up on the map, Eldon?
Yeah, I anticipate that our intent is to hopefully by potentially the first, second quarter of next year that we get the ramps in over there, which then will then trigger Balboa to go forward. And so we're working with you guys on the water line and things like that running through there as well. But those two parcels there, that parcel there and the one to the north, we would be looking for an amendment for that entire area.
Yeah.
We're just literally waiting for the interchange to get spooled up here, and now that ARA is kicked off, and so that area we would anticipate commercial. Obviously,
are we CCOM there or NCOM, Eldon? CCOM, okay.
Yeah, so my intent. What does the zoning look like? Yeah, so it's C3 now. And so the intent, and this would be great to get this feedback here as well, is that my original intent was basically the west half of that, running north and south there, would be more of that commercial and then tapering into some kind of residential unit as we get closer to the east, was what I was gonna bring in. That's what our current master plan shows, our internal one. Any feelings about that, of having residential mixed in there with the C3? Because that's a tremendous amount of C3. It would take a lot of time to absorb. I mean, that's hundreds of 200 acres of C3, right?
So we approve it and then have industrial park come in and then have residents come and yell at us like they did today.
The intent would be to come in and
I'm going to turn off his mic for the rest
No,
of the
it's all good. It's a good point.
It's just, I'm just making a point, right? We approved Sunrise Valley
And
years
for the
ago,
record,
and now
Councilman
we're getting
Coates is
yelled at.
also fun at parties, okay?
For sure.
I'm not fun at parties, so it's okay. No, I'm not saying no, I'm just saying
Yeah.
it's a concern I'm gonna be looking at is what makes sense. Because, again, I don't really love that we put so much residential next to industrial. I mean, we have to drive down Washington Dam Road and we get residential behind that and we get yelled at for that. And that was long time ago, right? So we just have to be cautious of how we do it and make sure it's thought out more than just placed residential around industrial and commercial. So, and we haven't seen your plans. I don't know. Those are the
Sure.
things I'll be looking at.
The intent would just be to hub it around the interchange and then feather it as it goes into residential to the east, so that it would be on the front end, and I would come in with an entire master plan for at least a bubble plan for uses on the whole project. So as far as this area goes down there, I think I'm not having any struggles. In my opinion, you guys are doing great through that whole area. That is a new substantial project that will come in the somewhat near future, though. Yeah.
And while you're here, so we've got two of the RS Southwest Logistics Center buildings, both about 200,000 square feet, give or take.
Yep, that's right.
I mean, the walls are up.
Yeah.
Is the roof on?
It is on both of them, actually. And so honestly, we're charging for a CO potentially on 102, at the end of this month. And so it's right now. We have a third building also submitted into you guys as well. We're doing mass grading on it right now, which is 300,000 square feet.
We're just ramping it up a little.
Yep, and then we're gonna submit two more right behind that as well, that it's looking great. It couldn't honestly be much better. Yeah, so they're coming quickly.
You might actually need that 200 acres of C3, right?
Yeah, right. Maybe we should leave it, right? We just skip the road and do that too. Yeah, who knows, right? But yeah, it's going great.
It's exciting. I look at council members that have been on for a long time and some of the groundwork that's been laid down there and the forward thinking, and it's fun to be a part of it. Are you seeing the demand, obviously, if Freeport's moving forward with buildings, are you seeing demand for tenants and
For sure, yeah.
occupancy there? And
I feel like it's gonna be as quickly as it possibly can be, but it's moving quickly, way more quickly than I was ever anticipating.
Fun to see because Fort Pierce seems to just drag and drag and drag and drag. I mean, I think they have some of their own internal problems that they're not as flexible over there, and that's causing the issues, right? But it's fun to see that we have an option for folks to be able to come and move quick and pick something up and get going.
Honestly, you guys have done great. Like it's made the whole interaction and that whole from cradle to grave item just really be successful, which I feel like that's one of the other problems over there, because there's an industrial park that's been under construction for like 25 years. This one is going to be built on a massive scale as quickly as basically we can put up these giant buildings. In my opinion, I think it's great. Yeah, and that's because of the way that you guys have thought through that, so it's great, yeah.
well, we appreciate your work. You're a great partner, and we'll have to plan a party when that first building gets the ribbon cutting, okay? We'll see how you do.
Awesome, thanks you guys.
Eldon, anything else? Council, anything else on general plan? Sounds like a few little tweaks, a little further discussion, maybe a mid-cycle amendment, if that's what you want. Okay, let's move on to the next item on the agenda. This is a commercial project update, and it'll be our Economic Development Director, Rusty Hughes.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I appreciate any time I get to talk about economic development in Washington City. And I was not blessed with the gift of brevity, but I'm going to try my best to stay under how long Eldon's took. So I've got a timer here. But let me know if you have any questions. I did listen to some of the comments. I wanted to give you some data points. First of all, the two suggested commercial areas were things that the landowner has come in and requested a general plan amendment or, kind of wanted to feel it out. And there's some other areas like that, but we have had inquiries into doing that. I really like the one near Highway 7, especially with D.R. Horton's project having no commercial and that eventually connecting through to George Washington Boulevard. It will be a major thoroughfare. So I think there's an opportunity there where the topography works to get a little more commercial and maybe a little more intensive use than because it's right next to the highway. And I appreciate the willingness to look at densities because that always helps as well.
Can I make one comment related to that really quickly? And I probably should have made it while Bob was still here, but one of the things that have become a challenge is we identify places for commercial, and you've seen this. I'm specifically thinking of SR7 and Telegraph, but we will have developers come in and say, this will never work for commercial, it's not ready, we need to turn it into residential. So we do have to be careful because we want to also protect those commercial areas that we've general planned. And sometimes they're not ready. Sometimes they would make great residential areas, but if we turn every commercial area into a residential area, that's something to be aware of too. We have to just be careful. Maybe we can absorb 200 acres into C3 right now, but these areas that can be absorbed at some future time, maybe they're just not ready yet. And we have to protect those as well.
I think that's a good point. And looking just at the massive scale of what we have near the airport, I think we have adequate commercial and industrial there. And I think you also have to think about workforce housing and supportive, things like that. So maybe there's room for that. And I think there's a difference between redevelopment when you've been on a ranch or you have those long skinny lots like you have on the Washington Dam Road. That's not my favorite place to take people on an economic development tour because it's transitioning. But when you have a blank slate and a thoughtful council that can really look at how to lay that out so that you protect the residents, I think that helps. I'm putting this out a lot for the public that there's a few people from the public here and people like to watch it online. So I wanted to remind everybody about this map. So I just wanted to go through because I've added a few layers. So Eldon's gonna get us started here. If you just go to the landing page of Washington City, click on development, and then click on economic development, which is right below the cotton ball there. You'll come to the economic development page. And if there is an embedded map, if you go to the upper right-hand corner, click that box, it will enlarge it. This is mobile friendly, but it works a lot better on a laptop because you don't get the side menu from the mobile. It's down below, so it's a little harder to see. But this is basically land use, planning commission, and city council meetings all put onto a map. I do update it regularly and I do remove things when they've been on there for a little while, but I like to highlight our commercial because that's the focus right now is building that out in those areas where it's designated. so if you look at just the left-hand menu, there's red check boxes. You can check or uncheck those if you don't want to see that layer. So each of those are a layer. And then there's a little gray arrow just below the red checkbox. If you click on that, it will expand that section if you're just looking at that. You can either go from the list and choose something there from the list. You want to go ahead and do that? Let's do the Northern Corridor. Oh, you picked the wrong one. Go to the Northern Corridor. One down from that. Second one on the list. Nope, right category, second one on the list. Can I have your clicker? This one kind of just came into the news again. It's back on with the federal administration change. So I just wanted to let people know about that. There is a comment period that's open, and this one's critical to some of the economic development that's going on at Exit 13. This would really bolster it if we can get this through at some point. I think Exit 13 is going great, but let's hit those exits and kind of start with a little tour of what's going on. Let's start at Exit 10. We can zoom in at Exit 10. So the shapefiles show the general planned commercial or industrial areas, and this is helpful for investors. This tool is used by landowners, investors, real estate agents. It's out there for the public. Any resident can take a look at it but it's really helped to really take a lot of what we have already planned and put it all in one place so that you can turn on the layers and turn off the layers. So this is our major market area, and we have some redevelopment going on. So if you look at the numbered layer, the orange numbered layer, and Eldon, if you'll go back to the side menu and go back to Scroll down on that side menu. You can see the for sale, for lease, that's a new layer. And then another new layer is area assets. And the area assets is more holistic, so it shows not just what's in Washington. That's the only layer that shows something outside of Washington City. And those are those economic development assets, universities, freeways, airports, things like that. So when people are coming from outside the area, it gives them a good scope about that. But some of the projects that are going, I could give you an update, but if you want to know, kind of look into the future of how things are being marketed and what is pre-application, you can go to the for sale, for lease and look at the for sale. So if you click on Washington Gateway, we just jumped up to exit 13. But if you click on that, you can see everything that all the information that I have, and this is just from scraping the LoopNet.
So I was just gonna ask, that's what LoopNet updates it, or the,
No, I do it all, but
so
it's,
this all has to be manually put in?
yes, but it's not, once you get everything in there, you just check it and make adjustments. We really don't have a lot for sale. It's not a lot of update or a lot of work. I have a really easy tool that streamlines it, makes it look a lot more complicated than it is. And then if you click, some of them have videos, and then some of them also don't click on the video, but it'll also click to the brochure. So if you go back, these are any photos or information about it. Sometimes I just screenshot the brochures, and then if you click down, or if you go towards the bottom, it's second up from the bottom, it says real estate brochure link. Click on that, it actually links to, come on, link. Okay, so it links to a PDF of the brochure and I always list, if there's multiple brokers or agents, I list the first one first. So they don't contact me initially, they contact the person that is selling the land or has the lease, but I just direct people towards this map. Okay, and then if you go back to the map, I guess I'm gonna run through just a few updates. You're probably aware of some of these, but they're, like I said, if you go back to exit 10, the Joann's went out of business. We had the Bed Bath & Beyond a little while ago that went out of business, and the Boot Barn came in. The Joann's is a 23,000 square foot, and a national retailer came in and bought up a lot of those leases. And they're currently working with staff to do a conditional use permit, so you should see that in the next 60 days or so. They want to do some facade improvements, so they're doing a conditional use permit, and then they'll do a tenant improvement. Also, the Homewood Suites and commercial area, it's on 70 North Green Springs. It's on the north side of exit 10. Their building permit is under review. They did have a building permit that was ready to go, and then they had to make some adjustments similar to the One Health building. So they made some adjustments to the total square footage of that hotel. That's going through for a new building permit, and that's under review right now. The Residence Inn actually reached out to me either yesterday or today, I don't remember which one, but they would like to extend an invitation to the mayor and council to do a walkthrough prior to their ribbon cutting, so they're getting really close. That's on 84 North Primavera. It's just south of the existing Spring Hill Suites. If you move to exit 12, I'll give you an update on Winco. The council approved a conditional use permit for Winco in September of last year. They came in for a conditional use for that second start for the two outbuildings, and they like to build those all together. So we've already received grading, civil drawings, and a building permit for their main store, and we expect to get a building permit application for the two outbuildings that are on those two parcels within the next 2 weeks or so. And those are all under simultaneous staff review right now. Buena Vista Plaza, or Buena Vista Commercial Plaza, which is just east of the Winco site. They've kind of been, once you get that anchor in, then the other commercial, it's a lot more viable. So, west. I forgot my directions there. Yeah, west, there you go. So you can see again, if you click on that brochure, you can see how it's being marketed. Nothing's approved, but they did come in with a minor subdivision, so they're doing all their civils, grading, infrastructure. You see dirt moving there, and they've divided the lots. They don't look like this. They've actually sold off 3 lots towards the east or north side to a different developer, and then they've come into staff developer, and they'll come forward with a conditional use permit. But these will develop similar to the ones on where the Quick Quack and the Panera Bread are, where they do the infrastructure first and then they bring back the conditional use permits. One Health Building just had their footings in, so that will be going vertical really soon. Going up to exit 13. Bob is here. He came in for a height waiver not too long ago for this corner here, and he will come back for conditional use for those hotels very soon within the next, it'll be under staff review within the next 2 weeks or so. There's also a residential portion. It is general plan to be residential, to feather in the existing residential to that commercial. This is, I think, is an opportunity for a little bit of density, just to support that regional commercial. So I think that's something that maybe should be considered there. Anything close to a freeway is usually good for that, and those main roads all the way around. So those would be why I would support it. And then I would say that on that Washington Gateway, again, this is a concept plan. There are several national anchors that are engaged, so we'll be seeing things move forward on that. A couple of outdoor retailers that have made site visits and a department store. I'm under NDA on these, so I can't give you any names. And then, of course, on the south side, we have something that was noticed just last week to go to Planning Commission next week. It's a conditional use permit for a big box, and you'll see it the following week. That's a big one. And then we're working on the road connection there too. There's a collaborative effort on that road connection of Grapevine Crossing. The Hyatt Place stalled for a little while, but it's back on track. The developer came in, picked up everything they expect to be under construction before the end of the year. And then I just wanted to quickly note, I think we covered a lot of the stuff to the south with Eldon's update, but we do see movement at George Washington and Washington Fields. It's a little further out than this freeway commercial, but we do see a lot of movement on that. We have a PID application for the lower 20 acres of Staley Farms that is under new ownership and has a developer that's looking to bring a small grocer and some outbuildings. So I think that will be good. But
Rusty, was that the 10 acres on the south end of Staley Farm that you're talking about?
It's somewhere between 18 and 20.
Oh, it is that much,
Mhm.
okay.
It's that whole area is general plan to be commercial, and it was what, it turned hands a couple of times, but there's a new developer who's developed other things in our city that is working on that. So you can see the for sale for lease again, that gives you an indication of how they're marketing it. So it's called the Corner Post. They're keeping it the Corner Post, but they have a new concept. And then I'll just note one last thing, and I'm still under, unless you have a lot of questions. The downtown, we have been working diligently for a long time with the downtown committee. There's been a lot of effort put into really vetting the proposals that have come in, and we expect to have a recommendation. The committee expects to have a recommendation before year's end. Sooner rather than later. And yep, and then I wanted to also note, just for the public, I know everybody here understands this, this is really the kickoff or the start of the downtown planning. So I know there's been some speculation or maybe some rumors flying around online that the city's kind of sneaking around doing a bunch of development. The idea is to bring the public in to work collaboratively, and it will be a process, but we're hiring a firm. The RFQ is to hire a firm and to start with the city-owned parcels, and then hopefully it grows out from there. And one more data point, somebody asked about the percentage, I think it was you, Councilman Ivey. So the average for the last 4 years for commercial versus residential by valuation, so that's one way of measuring it, we're at about 13.3%. And it has been increasing, it kind of ebbs and flows, but 13.3% is where we're at. I think St. George is about 50-50. And I have other charts and graphs if you have questions, but we can also end the meeting too.
Thank you, Rusty. Well done. Excellent presentation. You know, I'm glad that you keep this map updated and top of mind, because it seems like just when I'm starting to forget about it, you pull it back and I'm like, oh yes, there's where all of that information is. Council, any questions for Rusty? Jeremy, anything you'd like to add to this? I know you're very involved in a lot of these projects as well.
I'm certainly not as involved as Rusty. We get a lot of compliments on Rusty and her map, and so I appreciate her efforts on economic development. It's well appreciated by the development community and the public.
I was just going to comment, Mayor, this map is amazing. I've referenced it several times, you know, and it's amazing.
It's all free software too.
Even better.
You're doing a great job. Keep up the work.
Thank you.
And I guess one more comment. I don't know if you remember, but this is a pipeline, and Rusty's built quite a pipeline of things that are coming through, and it takes a little while, but man, we're starting to see these things just roll one after another, and then you forget about things like the auto mall that still have a lot of room, and she didn't touch on a lot of projects that we have going, but it's an amazing pipeline that's coming to Washington City, so we expect that 13% to go up as those valuations keep coming in.
Our city manager is very kind to give me credit, but I'd like to say it really helps when we have supportive council and mayor that are out there interested in this and focused on it. It also helps when we have staff that's supportive and can, you know, they've worked really hard to streamline their processes. Mike's done a great job in the building department. We're getting compliments from him. Eldon's doing a great job in his new role. Public Works has been really great. So I really appreciate the team kind of that does this development process and the relationships that we have, because that helps to, you know, and we all feel it sometimes because it seems like everybody comes all at once. They can't really pace it out, but they've done a really good job. There's a lot of people working extra hours and working from home to get these projects approved. Winco took about a year to give us their grading and civil and their building permit. And I asked them what the fastest turnaround time was, and they said 6 weeks. So I don't know if we'll hit that bar, but we're real close. So really appreciate the effort from staff. Thank you so much.
Well said, and for sure, we're very appreciative of it's all hands on deck, and we have great momentum and picking up speed. Good job. Let's go on to report of officers from assigned committees. We'll start with Councilman Belliston.
I don't know how much of you guys have in the past have been involved with Flood Control Authority. Councilman Coates is on it with me right now, but NRCS is the entity that does a lot of the back funding, right? Or brings a lot of funds into this area, and it's because of the Flood Control Authority that we have the amount of resources that we have to deal with some of the issues, you know, flood mitigation, rebuilding some of these detention basins, things like that. One of the guys at NRCS that we dealt with or used to deal with on a regular basis has left NRCS and has now been hired by Horrocks. And so we extended a contract to them yesterday to essentially hire Horrocks as an additional engineer on top of Bowen and Collins and Sunrise and the other ones that we have. So I think having him locally here with such good ties with NRCS and knowing their process is going to be super helpful in the future. But other than that, you can show up on December 2nd for our budget public hearing, but everything's going pretty good. So we get about a 10-to-1 match. For every $1 we get, we're able to collect $10 from outside money. So it sure helps to fill that gap. So
Thank you. Councilman Henderson.
Mayor, I don't have anything today. Thank you.
Councilman Coates.
Yeah, we had 3 board meetings this week and made it to 2. So, no, we had the solid waste on Monday. It went good. The demo's starting on the Skell House, so you saw the building's gone now. The old Skell House building's gone. So it'll be about the end of the month. We'll have it all paved and back in order, but so that's gone. The county helped us out with that, and then we got a contractor to do the repaving and everything around that. So that'll be good to have that. And then they're going to start into we're doing some redesign on the PCC, which is the Public Convenience Center, which you know is where you throw your trash when you dump that little, it's not very good. So that old one is going to go away and we'll build a new one. But that was the funding we didn't get last year, but I'm glad we didn't because it brought up some things and helped us cut some things that probably weren't fully essential. So watching the public's money where we can and making sure it's efficient. But that's it on the landfill. As far as the power board, we met yesterday with the power board. They're going to be presenting some stuff about a new solar project that we're going to be voting on. And Rick and Scott had some good slides. I think I'd like I don't know if Rick's had a chance to talk to you, it was just last night, but maybe a work session before the meeting to go over some of that stuff and kind of understand. They did a really good job of presenting it so that everyone can understand what our needs are and what those processes are. So I think that's coming maybe next meeting. Yes, he's shaking his head back there. So if we can get that on the work session and that to work through that. But it's a project I think is needed. And I think our staff's doing a good job keeping us in those projects that we need to keep our power as cheap as possible. So that's my report.
Good job. Keep up the good work. I know the landfill's a big board to chair. And you've done a great job out there. Councilman Ivey.
So Mayor, I'd start off with our trip to the annual conference in Salt Lake for the Utah League of Cities and Towns. And, it's always really valuable to go and see the other electeds throughout the state and some key leaders in state government, but also the cities and counties. It's really good to rub elbows and talk. And I think that is a huge value in being there to those. One recurring theme, this may sound a little arrogant, but that's maybe just the way it's going to sound, is that in every time we go into a workroom or a conference, we always hear what the state's working on, and we've already done it. The state's right now talking about accessible dwelling units. Well, we know how we processed that, and really a testament to you and to the staff and everyone, because we're cutting edge on all these policies as they come up, and they're still talking about it, and we've got them implemented. So I was very proud of that. The league was really a good visit. We used the time very wisely, I think, in being able to look forward and see some things that are coming down the pike. And again, being able to visit with our colleagues was valuable. Mayor, I want to talk a little bit about MPO. Been in conversation with Blake, and we've got some funding opportunities coming that we've identified, the funding that we'd like for MPO and where it would go. And we're on top of that and ready to go. I'm sure you probably have heard this, but for those that are listening at home, the Northern Corridor Highway is under review as official reopen the public judgment. So if you remember a while back, they approved a preferred route that was since overturned. And now they have got what they call a viable alternative. The review basically revoked the right-of-way for cutting through part of the Red Cliffs conservation area, meaning that they can't go through the conservation area, they have to stay out of it. So this expressway that they've come up with, or this alternative plan, is called the Red Hills Expressway. And the expressway, they consider it to be a viable option. Comment on this ends November 3rd. I think it's very important that we comment on this, that we read it, we study it and understand it. I think it's more important that we comment on this one than the previous one. This is why. Why not the Red Hills Expressway? Well, what would happen is that the Red Hills Parkway that you're familiar with, it would actually build an extension onto the Red Hills Parkway that would, and a interchange to connect into I-15. And this would avoid putting a highway through the Red Cliffs Conservation Area. And I don't want to be insensitive because everyone has an opinion that I want to consider, but basically the environmental groups are hailing this as a success. But I think what's interesting about it is that most everyone else says that this would not solve the problem, that it would just funnel this vast amount of cars and traffic right back into our roads and streets. And this has been an ongoing conversation. I know it's very charged, but ultimately what we're trying to do with the Northern Corridor is to alleviate traffic concerns, to try to keep people moving, to get people in and out. And, I understand that in Washington, it's an impact to us because it will terminate, the original route would have terminated in northern end of Green Springs, which a lot of our residents don't like, and I'm very sympathetic to those. But honestly, we have to have this cars and trucks moved around. And what's interesting also is that you'll remember that there was an exchange offered that would create a Zone 6 out east or west of Bloomington, where 6,000 acres would be put into a permanent reserve as kind of an offset for maybe some of the impacts made through the Northern Corridor area. My interest is this, is that people need to educate themselves to this. Like I said, the comment period runs for just less than a month. I think it's more important that we make comments now than even on the previous one, because really what we want, this extension, this proposed Red Hills Expressway would cost $400 million. And so basically you're spending your, Councilman?
Yeah, I think part of the key on that Red Hills Expressway is it dumps traffic right where part of the problem is.
Exactly.
You've got 16 lanes that go across.
Exactly.
They're all maxed out, and the Red Hills Expressway just dumps right into it. It doesn't fix anything.
Those cars right back down Washington, St. George
Northern
Boulevard.
Corridor at least move some out of that cut.
Exactly.
Where you can get traffic.
And you see it, well, the same way that I do, that when, in the end, when we spend $400 million, we need to be able to have a successful project. Not, and I don't want to sound too direct, but not appease. We're spending taxpayer money for a solution that we have to have. This isn't a choice. It's about safety. It's about pollution. It's about environmental concerns, but also the negative effects by cars idling in downtown St. George when they could be, there's a lot of mitigating factors, but it's my hope that everyone will take the time to study this latest review and the offer that's been put out there. But as I said, it is now reopened for public judgment, and your comments is what will be tallied. They will have more conversation about this. But I would say this, just in closing about this item, is that the groups that are in favor of it were opposed to the Northern Corridor, and now it's just flipped. Everyone that was for the original the preferred route into the Northern Corridor is now against this one. So you can kind of see what's happened. I think there needs to be some mitigation on both sides, but ultimately we need the route. And the last thing I'd talk about, Mayor, and this isn't part of my assignment, I hope you'll indulge me for just a minute, but I think it's something the council would like to hear. And David, if you have those pictures, you can put them up now. We had a situation about a month ago, and this little girl in this picture right here was a victim of a drowning at a residential residence in our neighborhood. I'm going to respect our officers that do not want any attention brought to them, but I just want to tell the story of this little girl that was drowned in a pool at a residence, and there's some real poignant, I gotta be careful here. There's some real poignant circumstances to this. But as you can see, a month later or so, this little girl came back home, and our public safety met the family at a church and went the last several miles with lights and sirens to get her back home again. And we had our police and fire there, and the heartfelt appreciation for this family and this neighborhood for our public safety, because it's a miracle. No matter whether you believe in miracles or not, this was a miracle. And this little girl is doing well. You can see her there. Go ahead and scroll, will you, David? And we'll just talk about these others. This was the note that they had written to our police officers and firefighters before they arrived. And I'll let you take a second and read those. Thank you, police and EMS and firefighters. Thank you for saving Sister Elise. So, this is the impact that having the right people in the right place at the right time, a positive outcome that, if you look at statistics, most infant drownings don't end well. Next picture, Dave. I don't know how many I gave you, but the next one. That's her in the big fire truck. Happy to be there. And is there one more, David? I'm not sure.
That was the last one.
Thank you so much. So I just wanted to share that with the council. It's just something that makes me very proud of our community for the work that goes in behind the scenes for our public safety and all the work that they do, so that when we have officers that arrive, they were ready to go. And I do want to respect them, but I want them to know how much I appreciate them, Chief, how much I appreciate your department and leadership.
Thank you for your report, Councilman. Real quick before we go to Councilwoman Casperson, I happened to be on a ride-along with Chief Moore that night near the Purgatory landfill of all places. And I heard that come across the radio. And what I was impressed with, and you alluded to this in your report, is just how quick the response was. And that quick response time, that action, saved that little girl's life. And that's when you're really proud. I mean, we're always proud, but when you have a result like that, and for me being, nearby, and Chief Moore saying, no, they'll respond to it, and then literally hearing that response on the radio when I'm with, fire chief, that was pretty impressive. So thank you for being involved there and making that a special experience for the family and for representing all of us there, Councilman. Councilwoman Casperson.
Yeah, I just wanted to also say thanks for sharing that. That's really heartwarming, and you love to hear those stories, and then to see how the community is just so, like, we look out for each other in the service there, like from everyone involved in that. And I just made me think of your message this month and how we're not defined by one incident, but just you can just see that throughout our community, just the goodness that is here. And so I'm just grateful to be part of this.
Well said, Councilman. Thank you. I'll be quick, and you know my topic. It's the same as every meeting. It's water. I mean, we saw the number. I mean, we were just barely above the lowest water year ever recorded in this area. So just a couple of things to keep in mind. The ACC, the advisory committee, which includes electeds and high-level staff from across the county, will be meeting soon to further discuss the drought contingency plans. And so you'll keep those on mind. At some point, we'll need to make sure we've got those in place and well-defined. And then also another high-level discussion, hard discussion that needs to be had, is that just high water users. How do we address high water users, and how much of a pool is enough? So those are some other things that just to kind of start wrapping your heads around. Those are some conversations that I think that we'll need to grapple with at some point. That is all I have, and we'll go to the next item, which is City Manager Report. Jeremy.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of items. I think everybody's noticed the signal at 500 West Telegraph. The crews have been doing a really good job of getting that conduit placed, and I thought it'd be a lot more impactful to the road, but they've done a really good job of keeping the traffic moving. That should be done in the next month. Plans are at 90% for the signal at Merrill Road and Washington Fields, so you can kind of watch the progress on that. You noticed tonight, but we welcome David Woodcock, who is the disembodied voice, I guess. It's good for October. He's been hired as the new IS director, so you'll hear his voice instead of Steve in our meetings now. Really, again, another tremendous team that we have in our IS department and taking care of our IT needs, but we'll be backfilling with another employee that we hope will be just as good as the current team that we have there. And then on a personal note, happy birthday to our finance director, Brian Brown. He took the night off for his birthday, which is kind of messed up, but have the night off to do something that might even be more fun than attending a council meeting. That's all I have, Mayor.
Well done. We do not have a closed session this evening, Council. But before we go, just a reminder that next Tuesday, October 14th, we'll have the premiere showing of Echoes of Valor. And it's kind of a documentary about an hour long of our Veterans Day celebration, which is coming up again in November 11th. So I'll ask Tara to put that on your calendars in case that's something you want to attend. That said, we'll call for a motion. I will call for a motion to adjourn. I have a motion by Councilman Coates. Second by Councilman Henderson. All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.